The UCF Knights are getting down with JRP. Yeah, you know me. It's Locked On Sooners Live.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy at prizepicks.com. Not com. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on KRF Sports app. Josh, so much to dig into as we get back into game week. The bye week was nice. It was relaxing. We got to enjoy a little, UT, OU trash talk. Got to enjoy a little Lincoln Riley suffrage. And now we get back into game action as we get ready for UCF on Saturday at the beloved 11 a.m. time slot. The Knights are traveling to Norman and will have back John Rhys Plumlee at quarterback after missing some time. Now, he did start the Kansas game, just wasn't very good. Got replaced by Timmy McClain as they got down 31-0 in that game. But Rhys Plumlee expected to be back starting. Gus Malzahn said he's going to be there for Saturday in Norman.
What do you make of this? I mean, obviously, just sort of generically, you would say, okay, starting quarterback's back. That has to be good news for UCF. How big of a factor is this?
I mean, he's an athletic quarterback. He can run the ball really, really well. Like, he led the Knights in rushing last year. That's how good of a runner he is. At the same time, you look at just some of the numbers, and yeah, completion percentage is pretty good, but he's got more interceptions than he has touchdown passes. And I mean, he's not necessarily run the ball like super great. He's only ran for 163 yards this season. Now, albeit that's in 3 games. He missed, the better part of 3 games otherwise. So yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know. You look at some of the UCF replies to some of the reporters, and Knights fans aren't necessarily thrilled, I would say, that Rhys Plumlee is back, but I can say that he's kind of this Adrian Martinez type that if you're not careful, he can be a problem. But I think the big key in this one is that Oklahoma's offense, I don't know if UCF can stop them at all based on some of the things that we've seen in conference play thus far. But anytime you get a quarterback back with as much experience as John Rhys Plumlee has, heading into a hostile situation as Owen Field, Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium will be, I think it's a plus for the Sooners, but it would not surprise me at all if there's a quarterback change or rotation in this game.
This will be a nice little barometer for a couple of things for Oklahoma versus UCF. Number one, the struggling quarterback / backup quarterback taking over, and things don't happen the way it's expected for Oklahoma's defense. Obviously, in the case of Plumlee here, he's the starting quarterback, but if I told you that he's the struggling quarterback, would you believe me? His numbers through Power 5 competition, his 1 year as the starting guy at Ole Miss, or getting major snaps at Ole Miss, completed just 52.7% of his passes. 3 games against Power Conference competition right here, right now in 2022, 53.5% of his passes for 4.3 yards per attempt. So yeah, Plumlee's obviously got some qualities that could scare you, right? If you let him get confident, then he can do some different things to attack you and make it a frustrating day. But Oklahoma, don't let him be that guy, because he hasn't been that guy versus Power Conference competition yet. So that would be number one for me. And then the number 2 thing would be what you talked about, which is UCF defensively. They're right now allowing a Big 12 worst 43.7 points per game in conference play, 490.7 yards per game in conference play, which is only better than Houston. So this is a defense that's not doing a lot of good things. for UCF and Oklahoma offensively. I look at the running game in particular in this one, John, as okay, here's a Kansas team a couple of weeks ago versus UCF that rumbled for 400 yards. So I would like to see not necessarily 400 yards, but I would like to see Oklahoma's running backs in this game figure it out.
Yeah, if there was ever a game in which they're going to put up some big-time numbers, it would be this game. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to have a big takeaway about the running game when it comes to what they do against UCF. Unless it's not good, then I think we can be pretty solidified in our belief that this running game is just not going to be good this year. But if they put some good things together, then we can think, okay, maybe there's a little something, but we got to see it against some tougher defenses down the road. But yeah, it's always good to have a veteran player running your offense as much as you can, but it just seems like the ceiling's a little bit higher with Timmy McClain, and maybe they get a little bit better offensive output. I mean, they got down, or they were up big on Baylor and kind of gave that one away. Again, a lot of it due to the defense, but the offense also didn't score at all in the fourth quarter as they gave up 26 points. So I think, yes, they can score a little bit. I mean, they're putting some points on the board. I just don't trust it. I just don't trust them to be able to go into Norman and be able to have a similar offensive output. They just don't seem like a good road team because they've struggled on the road. And the one, Big 12 game that they actually performed well in, they really only performed well for 3 quarters. That fourth quarter was a travesty. And they may not win another game this year. I'm just not so sure what UCF is at this point. But I do know what Oklahoma is. They're a smart, disciplined, sound defensive football team that is going to treat John Rhys Plumlee a lot like they treated Emory Jones. And they're going to play disciplined. They're going to play contained. And they're not going to let him get outside the pocket and beat them with his legs. I think that's going to be the game plan coming into this one. It's like, hey, we will let you throw because we don't trust that you're going to be able to throw on us, but we are not going to let you run. We're not going to let you Garrett Green us to death in this game. They learned some valuable lessons last year in that West Virginia loss. I don't think it's happening again this year.
Well, you got the wheels turning for me a little bit that, okay, so Plumlee's good to go, right? Obviously, that's the word is he's healthy. Heard it as much from UCF, right? From the head coach. I mean, he's good to go. If they expect him to start and play in this game, probably you got to be on your toes for both, right? I mean, don't you have to have that approach if you're Oklahoma that you will see both Plumlee and McClain?
It would be the wise thing to do, similar to the way that you prepared for Tulsa. In that, I mean, you saw multiple quarterbacks because you didn't really know which quarterback you were going to get that week. Yes, Plumlee's the starter, but Timmy McClain's played good football at times in Plumlee's absence. So I'd be prepared for that because you just never know what you're going to get sometimes. I mean, last year against West Virginia, what was it? It was JT Daniels was the starter. Oklahoma was all over him. He had zero chance. They made the switch to Garrett Green, and the light bulb came on for West Virginia's offense, and it was a struggle for Oklahoma's defense the rest of the way. So, yeah, go into this game, prepare to see Timmy McClain at some point, even if it's not right away, and just be aware that a quarterback change could occur, especially if things start going poorly for UCF's offense. We got so much to dig into on UCF as the week progresses. Again, great to be back in a game week. So glad that you are here with us on Locked On Sooners Live. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to talk more. We got the ESPN Football Power Index to get into, what Xavier Worthy is talking about, grading Oklahoma at the midway point, and we'll always answer your comments and questions along the way as well. We'll do that next after the break. But first, we're going to talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the place you want to go for every new hire, because these days every potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. I mean, if USC would have had the opportunity to check out everybody through a LinkedIn profile with the right questions, the right framework, maybe they would have understood some things about the head coach that they hired, but they didn't use LinkedIn Jobs. So go to LinkedIn Jobs, post your job, use the purple hashtag hiring frame to let people know that you are hiring. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Josh, we are in the Matrix. No, not really. I mean, the computers right now have a much higher affinity for the Oklahoma Sooners than the USLBM coaches poll, the AP Top 25. The Oklahoma Sooners come in at number 2 in the ESPN FPI, behind only Ohio State. And there's a lot to really like about their standing in the ESPN FPI, especially as it pertains to what we can see coming forward for the Sooners.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about this? Is it just the numbers don't lie and the numbers are right? And I mean, statistical data, right? The FPI, these predictive matrices, if you will, right? These statistical programs that are put in place, they don't care about what it said in the preseason. They don't care about a number of different things, right? That human voters might, even if they don't think that they do. To some degree, there could be a bias, right, here or there. For the Football Power Index, something like that, it just looks at raw data and it ranks it. And basically what it says is Oklahoma is the number 2 team in the country. So the efficiency numbers sort of have been what the efficiency numbers are for Oklahoma offensively and defensively. So I guess the question is, do the computers have it right and the people have it wrong? Because I'm looking at all sorts of, we don't even speak the name of a certain AP voter that, oh, by the way, has suddenly now ranked Oklahoma in front of Texas after previously having not done so. But we will not speak that name. But I'm looking here and just like one AP voter after another. And I'm not saying that necessarily I would be different if I had an AP vote, based on, I guess to some degree do go with the, hey, I ranked you here and you haven't lost, so I'm not just going to magically ding you down. And yet you kind of look at it and, Oklahoma's in the top 5 in a lot of these AP voters ballots, but they're also 6 or 7 on a number of ballots too. So the computer's right, the people wrong. People are slow to catch up to the chase here.
I'll say I don't mind where the people are. I think the people are being reasonable with where they have Oklahoma, because it would be difficult, I think, to put Oklahoma in front of Georgia. You can't do it. Georgia is the 2-time defending national title holder. And then you look at teams like Michigan, was a college football playoff team last year, got J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum back. Then you're looking at Florida State, who has, to me, some significant wins, even though Clemson doesn't look like the same Clemson we've seen in the past, but they did beat LSU as well. And, I mean, they look like a really good football team. Then you talk about who else is up there? Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, we're going to find out really quickly about Ohio State and Penn State this coming weekend when they meet up in Columbus. That's going to be a fantastic game. But so I don't mind that Oklahoma's sitting back there. I think what it's showing is that not only is Oklahoma building something for this year, but it's also building something for the future because of just what they are doing on the recruiting trail. And I think some of it goes to the way that they've won these games. They're not just squeaking by. I mean, okay, we can say they squeaked by Texas, but they were technically the underdog in that one. Although the ESPN Football Power Index favored Oklahoma going into that one, and it got it right. A small margin, but they favored them. But Oklahoma, I mean, they're 6-0 against the spread, 5-0 as a spread favorite. And they're winning by, every game other than Texas, they're winning by 2 touchdowns or more. Those are significant wins, and that moves the needle for the computer as it runs its simulations. So I think there's a little bit of both here to work through, in that, okay, before the season, Oklahoma wasn't a top 20 team by a lot of standards and by a lot of voters' measures, but they are a team that has a lot going for it. And it would not surprise me if by the end of the season, they are ranked as the number 2 team in the country. A lot of the ESPN Football Power Index, it's a predictive or almost a projection of how they believe, based on the data that they have, that the season will play out. You look at the ESPN Football Power Index, and nobody has a higher chance to win their conference, make the playoff, or win the national title than the Oklahoma Sooners do. So whatever the computers are saying, we'll see how it all plays out. But you got to like where Oklahoma's at right now. They control their own destiny in the Big 12 and for a college football playoff spot. And that's really all you can ask for at the midway point of the season, especially coming off of a 6-7 season a year ago.
No, that's right. And the fact that we can have little discussions and debates about, do the computers have it right? Are the people justified in waiting a little bit to bump Oklahoma up? It's a great conversation, right? You're in a good spot that Oklahoma's 6-0, and we can even have this debate on whether a voter made a mistake by not having Oklahoma higher. And we're going to see, right? I mean, the first college football playoff rankings release will be coming up on Tuesday, October 31st. So couple of weeks from now. So you have a couple more weeks to impress between then and now. And obviously between now and then. And obviously you got the Penn State, Ohio State game, which is going to take care of somebody. Bottom line for Oklahoma, take care of business, win. And like I said yesterday, for me, it's okay. I want to see Oklahoma be business-like this week and beyond these next couple of games. I mean, go impress some voters. If we're talking about, do the computers have it right? Do the pollsters have it right? We'll change some pollsters' minds based on the way that you go handle your business versus UCF and beyond.
And I think the schedule kind of sets up for them to be able to do that. We talk so much about how the schedule isn't very strong. Well, it gives you the opportunity to go and make statements in every single one of these games, because you are going to be the favorite. You are going to be perceived as the better team when you go to Stillwater, when you play UCF this weekend, when you play, in Provo towards the end of the season, when you host TCU, you'll be perceived as the better team. Go act like it. Go be the better team. Don't expect that they're going to hand anything to you. Go get everything you want. And I think that's the thing that I feel most confident about in this team right now, with Brent Venables in particular, is they're not a team that's looking past anybody, that's underestimating anybody. They're going, and it's like Danny Stutzman said, Brent Venables said, you're playing and preparing to a standard, and they are their own standard. It's not, we're trying to beat UCF. We're trying to beat what we expect of ourselves every single week. And that's how you don't play down to yourself. Like, if perfection is the goal and you have a standard that's higher than what UCF is going to put on the field, then you're not going to be playing down to UCF. You're not going to be playing down to West Virginia or TCU or Oklahoma State or Kansas. No, you're going to go in with the same attitude every single week, looking to dominate in every single facet of the game. And that's what's going to give them the best chance. It's all mental from here on out, because they have the talent to run the table and get to the Big 12 title game. Now, will they beat Texas? If Texas is the other side of that, we'll see. But they've got the talent to do everything they need to do this season. It's going to be all a mental game from here on out.
Win these next couple of games, and there's no doubt Oklahoma will be, obviously they're right there right now, knocking on the door. So win these next couple of games and you'll definitely be top 5. And I would probably say in the top 4 of the first college football playoff rankings if you win comfortably this week, and then obviously go to Lawrence and beat a Kansas team that may or may not have Jalen Daniels, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The running game this week, I mentioned it earlier, it's time to go perform against UCF. And I think that we saw some positive developments with Caden Green, with the interior of this offensive line, some of the possibilities that could be there. And now it's time to go deliver against an opponent in UCF that you ought to be able to go run the football against, right? Kansas State's Giddens went for 2 bills against them. We talked about what KU did against UCF. So the opportunity is there for Oklahoma to have its best day running the football, John. I'm really hopeful that we do see exactly that come Saturday.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't matter who's running the football, who's playing on the offensive line. You're a much better team up front than UCF. Kansas showed that. So you should be able to go run the ball. I don't care if it's Tawi Walker. I don't care if it's Marcus Major or Javante Barnes or Gavin Sawchuk or Caleb Hicks or Dalen Smothers, whoever. You can put Chapman McCown back there. Just go run the football, be efficient, get yards, and control the ground game. Yes, Dylan Gabriel's played great, but you don't want to be relying on him every single week, not because he can't do it, but because you want balance in your offense. So go run the football, be more effective, and that's going to be an area that I'm sure both of you and I will not grade so highly when we talk about our midseason grades for the Oklahoma Sooners, but we'll do that here next after the break.
PrizePicks. If you're anything like me, this Cowboys game that you're watching right now, Cowboys, Chargers, maybe we want to spike that interest a little bit with some daily fantasy football. Why not, right? PrizePicks, that's the place to do it. And with our code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match, you're going to get up to $100 with that first deposit match with our code again from Locked On College. That's prizepicks.com // Locked On College. It's really easy. Pick a couple of players. For example, if we're talking college football, Drake May, Blake Corum, more or less. And then you just rack up the winnings, baby. Rack up that cash. It's super easy. The one of the best parts about it, again, it's so easy to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds, which if you're on the go, you want to play some daily fantasy sports, but you want to get in, you want to get out, there you go. That's the way to go. Test your skills. PrizePicks this football season, an exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com / Locked On College. Use our code Locked On College for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com / Locked On College. Use our code Locked On College for a first deposit match up to $100.
It's the midway point of the season, and yeah, we're getting ready for UCF, a team that is allowing 197 rushing yards per game, and is number, 124 in rushing yards allowed per game. Just little extra bit on what we just talked about here on Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for being here. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on every platform. We'll talk through all your questions. We'll touch on some of your comments over there in the YouTube chat. So make sure you're dropping those questions in. We'll flag them and bring them back later in the show. But Josh, midseason grades, let's start with the quarterback position, because I think for me, this is the easiest one to grade because Dylan Gabriel's been phenomenal. And when Jackson Arnold's gotten a chance to see the game, he's been phenomenal as well. They get an A+ for me.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, A+, okay, that's tough for me to give an A+ to anybody, but it's a solid A, right? And maybe it is an A+. I don't know. You're a perfect 6-0, and Dylan Gabriel's right in the thick of the Heisman discussion, the Heisman chase. And I mean, right now where Oklahoma's at, he's going to be a Heisman finalist. It's just that simple. The way that he's playing, throwing the football, running the football, the team success for Dylan Gabriel in Oklahoma, he is in that category. So if that's the case, even Jackson Arnold aside, who's done obviously some positive things as well, Dylan Gabriel alone gets this, into A+ type category. So yeah, it's been great quarterback play that Oklahoma's gotten, championship level quarterback play.
And with the running backs, man, I feel like there have been some really good things that they've done, especially in the passing game. I think Marcus Major and Tawi Walker have both been effective in the passing game a little bit and pretty effective pass blockers as well. But between them and the offensive line, if we just say the run game as a whole, to me, it gets kind of a C. It's been a little bit underwhelming at times. They've had some good moments where they've been able to move the ball on the ground. There just hasn't been a lot of consistency yet, and hopefully that continues to get better.
And I think I would probably say C-, because to me it's been below average for Oklahoma running the football if you take the quarterback run game out of the equation, which understandably you can't do that because it's a big part of the Jeff Lebby offense and Oklahoma's offense. But I'd like to see Oklahoma more comfortable, whether it's out of shotgun, traditionally handing off to a running back from a shotgun set, single back, all those different things, right? Where you hand off to, I don't know, a running back and that offensive line goes and gets a push and you don't have to rely on the quarterback run game quite as much. So to me, it's not been great, and that's all hands on deck in that regard that need to improve, whether you're talking offensive line, running backs themselves. It's been below average so far. It's one of the few things that has been below average.
And something that hasn't been below average is the wide receiver play. The wide receivers have looked really, really good, whether it's Jaleel Farouk or Andrel Anthony. Get better, get rest. Hope everything is going well with your knee. Nick Anderson's been great. Drake Stoops has been Drake Stoops. Gavin Freeman, when he's gotten some opportunities, has been really good. Jaden Gibson has started to show like, yes, this is a 4-star player, been a big-time playmaker in jump ball situations. They get an A from me because they've been really, really good. Now they're going to have to step up and be even better because of the loss of Andrel Anthony.
Yeah, it's got to be an A. Coming into the season with some question marks, obviously now you move forward minus Andrel Anthony, and that part stinks. That's a big-time loss for Oklahoma. But if we're factoring in for right now midseason equation, grading it on the games we've seen and not, okay, what's the situation going forward, then you have to factor Andrel Anthony's performance into the equation too, and he's been phenomenal for OU. So between himself and Farouk and the arrival and emergence of both Anderson and Gibson, not to mention what Drake Stoops is like, Mr. Old Steady for this Oklahoma offense. Yeah, the wide receivers, if you had questions, they have silenced any of the questions. It's a position group that you can make the argument for best on the football team right now for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it's a fair sentiment, and maybe the position that is arguably the worst position group on the football team, that's tight end. Now we started to see a little bit of flash from Austin Stogner, who had a couple first down receptions on that opening drive of the second half to help Oklahoma get that touchdown to start the half. But it's been a slow start for the tight end group. They've had some good things going in the run game at times, but also some whiffs. I mean, this might be my lowest grade of the whole position. Now I'm going to give it a D. It hasn't been a failing grade because, again, Austin Stogner came up huge on that drive against Texas, but I need to see more. I need to see further development out of Stogner. I got to see Jason Llewellyn and Caden Helms get on the field a little bit just to start seeing what they've got. I mean, I don't know how healthy they are, what their situation is, but it's time we got to start seeing what some of these younger pieces have, because it might be the Davin Mitchell show next year when he's a true freshman in Norman.
He's going to have a great chance, sure, if physically he's ready to go, which the indication would be that, yeah, probably physically he's going to be all right and ready to go, then, yeah, he'll have a chance to step right in and impact things, assuming that obviously goes along with him picking up the playbook and, everything upstairs clicks for him. In addition to, I mean, physically, I do think he's going to step right in and be physically ready to play college football, which is obviously rare. Tight end, I would say it's especially rare to step in and be, ready for the grind that is a college football season, which is now going to be an SEC season next season. Keep in mind for Davin Mitchell in Oklahoma too. But man, 10 combined grabs. Basically, I'm looking at McIntyre 1, Smith 2, 7 for Stogner. So there's 10 right there for basically 120 yards receiving. And what's the touchdown situation on those guys? Do they have a touchdown?
Blake Smith has a touchdown, I think, but that's it.
Yeah, he's got the one touchdown. So 120 yards, 1 touchdown, and 10 grabs. Not good enough. Anywhere close to what we were thinking. So I think I'm with you. I might be generous and say, because of some of what I've seen from Blake Smith at times, blocking has been now seen some not so great from Austin Stogner at times blocking, and that's been pointed out by others. But I do think Blake Smith has been okay in that department at times. I'll be very generous and say D+.
That was very nice of you, Josh. You're the kind soul here on Locked On Sooners. But the blocking, the offensive line, I think has been pretty good. Now the run game has not really found its stride yet, but again, they've shown signs. But pass blocking, and this is also, part Dylan Gabriel's grade, I think the pass blocking situation has been really, really good. The unit as a whole, I'd probably give it a B+, just because, again, the run game hasn't been where we expect it to be, but they've done a great job protecting Dylan Gabriel.
And the offense is one of the nation's best offenses, putting up, a bunch of points. And though there's been some tricky moments with the run game, obviously the run blocking piece there, the offense as a whole, generally speaking, has been very, very successful. And you nailed it. Pass blocking has been really good. Dillon Gabriel, for the most part, has been able to operate back there and survey and dissect and maybe tuck it and run it himself. And actually, the run blocking piece that they really have kind of figured out, John, is the quarterback run game component. So, and at times, probably it's fair to say, when we were talking running backs, didn't necessarily say the nicest things about the offensive line, but I'll give them a little bit of, I'll go to bat for them a little bit here and say that the running backs definitely on a couple of snaps here and there certainly have hung the offensive line out to dry, where you just didn't go cut it up and go make a play. So it's kind of everything in concert. I'm probably a solid B because I think pass protection has been so good and the offense as a whole has done really good, but obviously can't give it a B plus, can't give it an A type grade because again, the run game simply has to improve.
It does. And one area on the defensive side that Oklahoma's been really, really good is against the run. Their defensive front is playing really well, and I feel like it's trending upward as a pass rushing unit. 5 sacks against Quinn Ewers, 10 tackles for loss. This is a unit that, okay, at the beginning of the season, everybody's like, where's the pass rush? For the first few games of the year, we're like, they're not getting sacks. They're not, they're getting a little bit of effective pressure, but we weren't seeing the splash from the pass rush. But man, against Texas, I feel like they really hit their stride, and hopefully that's just the beginning of what we're going to see over the rest of the season. I'd probably give them a B plus. No. I'm going to give them an A because again, one of the nation's best run defenses, the pass rush is getting better every single week. And we haven't even seen a healthy R. Mason Thomas yet. And they're kind of figuring out their rotation a little bit. Ethan Downs is coming on strong. So I'm going to give them an A because I feel like altogether, the defensive front has been really, really good for the Oklahoma Sooners. I talked about it in the first segment. Sound. They're an assignment sound unit that's doing their jobs really, really well and making sure that they stop the run before they're rushing the passer. I like what they're doing right now. Defensive line gets an A.
Yeah, they're getting a B plus from me. You had it right to begin with. Run defense, obviously, collectively has been really, really good. And I think at times for those that are like, hey, can I see some more PJ Adebawore out there? It's the collective ability of some of these guys like a Rondell Bothroyd or an Ethan Downs that they're just physically a little bit ahead and in the run game are a little bit more reliable. And so you gotta account for that. Oklahoma, by and large, save for really one quarter against Iowa State, quarter and a half against Iowa State, it's been really good in the run defense department for Oklahoma. I was a little concerned, as you touched on, with the pass rush, but it's probably bumped it up a solid from B to B plus for me just from the Texas game, what they did in the pass rushing department. In that game alone, John, when you think about Lacey, Dejon Terry, Ethan Downs, each one of those guys had a sack in the game. They combined for 4, a bunch of TFLs. Obviously, Oklahoma as a team, spearheaded by what happened up front, finishes with 10 TFLs in that game, 5 sacks, again, 4 of those from the defensive line. So it's a defensive line that I think maybe is starting to find some star power, perhaps, right, in an Ethan Downs and in others. And you know what? Even if you don't have that high NFL draft type guy right now, this upcoming draft off this defensive line, if they keep doing and delivering what they're doing right now with run defense and some timely pressures in TFLs and sacks the way that they did against Texas, they were great, right? That was an A grade versus Texas, but got to take the total body of work in. It's encouraging what happened in that game.
It was very encouraging. The other thing that's been really, really encouraging, and a place we do have a lot of star power, seems like at linebacker, the Oklahoma Sooners are flush with Danny Stutzman and Jaren Kanak coming on strong, and Dasan McCullough taking over for Justin Harrington. Justin Harrington had played really, really well at Cheetah. I like to lump the Cheetah in as the linebacker because, I don't know, I like the rule of threes at linebacker a little bit. But I think for me, I'm going to give him an A+. Danny Stutzman's playing at an All-American level. You talked about Dillon Gabriel thrusting himself into the Heisman discussion. He's done the same thing, or Stutzman has done the same thing with the Butkus discussion. And then Jaren Kanak, for a guy that hadn't played linebacker before, he sure looks like a guy that knows how to play a little linebacker, and he's only going to get better and better. And at times has been one of your biggest pressure players. And then Dasan McCullough, man, the way that he has been able to make an impact in both the pass rush department and the run game, man, that you keep going back to that goal line stand, And Deshaun McCullough was a man possessed on that. Same with Kip Lewis, another guy that sometimes flies under the radar a little bit because of the great play we're getting at linebacker. Kip Lewis is having a phenomenal season for the Sooners right now too. It's a great group.
Yeah, it's obviously the collective talent is much, much better on this roster at linebacker. They've got a superstar in Danny Stutzman. Again, maybe the Butkus Award winner, as you touched on, certainly an All-American when this season is all said and done for Danny Stutzman. Jaren Kanak has rapidly improved, which we were optimistic and thought would happen. Deshaun McCullough has been an impact addition out of the transfer portal, as folks are saying. Kip Lewis and some of the other younger backers have gone out there and done some nice things. It's tough for me with anybody to get that A+ grade, and maybe you're right, and they do deserve that A+ grade. It's a solid A, though. I mean, they've been tremendous. It's to me, it's right there alongside wide receiver as the group that you would look at and say, okay, is this Oklahoma's best position group right now? The run defense, these guys obviously are alongside the defensive line, the biggest puzzle piece reasons why OU's now 29 in run defense, and larger than that, the third down defense, the goal line stand you talked about, the scoring defense jumps that Oklahoma's made. A lot of it, right, comes back to Danny Stutzman and the growth of Jaren Kanak and others. So it's a star-laden group for Oklahoma right now, which when is the last time you would say that about Oklahoma's backers?
It's been a while. Like, you might have one guy that you felt great about, whether it's Kenneth Murray, during his time, but you often didn't feel good about great about the group, and I think that's just a testament to what Brent Venables is building on the defensive side of the ball with Ted Roof and James Skalski. And I mean, from front to back, it's all looking better. And let's, finish with the secondary here. I guess we can talk special teams too, but let's talk secondary. And I'm going to give them an A. I feel like, Gentry Williams, Woody Washington are playing great on the outside. We've even seen some positive stuff out of Kenai Walker when he's been available. And then the safety play has been so good with Key Lawrence and Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen and Reggie Pearson. Have there been a few miscues and mistimed things? Absolutely. That'll probably keep it from an A+, but by and large, man, they've been a huge part of the defensive turnaround, in particular going and getting turnovers. Whether it was the Key Lawrence strip after the big SMU run, that was huge. The big interception by Key Lawrence in the end zone against Cincinnati, the pick 6 by Billy Bowman, the interceptions by Gentry Williams. I mean, Gentry Williams, he's in his first year as a starter and he leads the Sooners in interceptions, and he's got like 4 tackles for loss because you cannot run a screen to his side. Just stop trying. And this unit as a secondary is just playing very, very good. I'll give it an A-.
That's right where I'm at too, with the group as well, is right at an A-. I can't reasonably give it anything less than that, what the group is doing. I mean, right now, obviously the passing yards allowed number, they'll bend but not break quite a bit at times. They're actually 85th nationally in passing yards allowed, but the upgrade in the tackling ability across the board for Oklahoma, the fact that they're going and turning people over. I mean, they're number 2 nationally right now in interceptions. They've got 12 of them on the season. So that alone, those two things, I think you got to have it in the A range. Obviously, again, probably a couple of big busts here or there, or one coverage play here or there in, multiple games has this down the board in terms of passing yards allowed. But I got to look at tightening up in the red zone, the tackling ability, the turnovers that they're forcing. If I'm giving the defensive line a B+, I'm giving this group an A-.
Yeah, they've been good in the money moments. Yes, they've given up a lot of yards. Some of that comes from having to or getting to play with big leads. You're going to give up a lot of yards in those situations. A lot of it comes from, hey, you're forcing teams into second and third and long situations. And so, yeah, you might give up yards, but they're not giving up a lot of points. And if you're telling me that you're giving up a bunch of yards, but you're only giving up 14 points per game, I mean, to me, your defense is playing really, really good. So should we talk special teams? Because, man, it's been a mixed bag at times. For the first few weeks of the season, it seemed like special teams was going to be such a strength for this team. They were making a special teams play in every single game, whether it was Gavin Freeman's punt return touchdown or Peyton Bowen's blocked punt. And then there was another one in there. Oh, Jaleel Farouk had a big return against Tulsa, I believe, that kind of helped get them set up before he fumbled it. And so this is a unit that looked like it was going to be really promising, and then it's kind of slid back a little bit. Although Gavin Schmidt, I think, has been really Schmidt. Yeah, Schmidt has not Gavin Schmidt. Zach Schmidt, excuse me, everybody, has been really good on kickoffs and on field goal attempts. So if we were going to separate it, I'd probably give him like a B plus, and maybe the punting game a D. Return game, I'd probably give it a solid B.
Yeah, I'm probably C plus across the board for Oklahoma's special teams. And that might even be a little bit too high based on the last couple of weeks. Punting is not good. Place kicking obviously has been problematic. I'm talking myself into C or C minus here, but the coverage I think has been relatively good, right? Punt and kick return coverage feels like it's been pretty good. They've been able to make some explosive plays there, punt and kick return at times. So that is, I think, raising it up a little bit for me. What about just across the board grades? Offensively, defensively for Oklahoma? We went position by position, and we don't have to be nearly as long-winded in regards to this. Is it crazy that I didn't give a defensive group a grade of A+, but I'm going to give the defense as a whole an A+?
No, because, I mean, defense is a team thing. And as a unit, they're one of the best defenses in the country. So no, not crazy at all.
And I think for me, it's not necessarily the quote-unquote grading this on a curve. It's this is where the team was at. Just being realistic about it. Here's where the program was at a year ago, and I don't have the set of numbers in front of me, but they have, John, across the board, if we're grading this season so far, third down defense, much better. Red zone defense, much better. Scoring defense, they've made a historic jump right now in scoring defense. They're coming away with a bunch of turnovers. So A+. Defensively, what they've done so far this season, it's been everything Oklahoma fans could have asked for from a defensive jump and then some.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, they're second in the nation in turnovers per game at 2.5. You know, there's only a handful of teams in the Power Five that are averaging more than two turnovers per game. Oklahoma is one of them, which is pretty impressive in its own right. You know, you talked about the yards are better. The scoring defense is so much better. You know, the third down defense is so much better. All of it is better. And so, I mean, to me, yeah, it's an A+. And you can even, if you just took my memory of 2022 away, which if there's somebody out there that can do that, I'd be happy to remove all of the football from 2022 from my memory banks. Even if you just took this year by itself, I think it'd be fair to say they've played A+ defense. Even if they've given up yards, they've come through in big moments like we saw against Texas. And to me, it's about wins and it's about winning football. And this defense is playing winning football. Again, yards happen. Sometimes you get beat, you give up yards, you give up plays. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, did your team score more points than the other team? Did your defense allow fewer points than the other team? Against Texas, the final score might have said 34-30, but the defense only allowed 23 points, only 2 touchdowns in that game. And then Texas kicked 3 field goals. You're going to win a lot of football games if you play defense like that, especially against top 5 opponents. So yeah, man, it is not crazy to give the defense an A+ grade because they've been better than expected, I think, even though we expected them to be better than what they were a year ago.
And similarly, because of some of the question marks and complaints coming in, I'm bouncing in between A- offensively for Oklahoma, and I'm leaning that I'm going to say A, just because I can't hold the run game lack of growth so far totally against Oklahoma. Right. I mean, that would be the component, and maybe I should just say A-, but I just think the growth of Dylan Gabriel, right? The wide receivers being what they are, and the points and the wins that Oklahoma's been able to accumulate. They needed one game-winning drive against Texas. That alone almost, I think, gets you an A, right? The fact that you're undefeated and Gabriel and company were able to go execute and put that drive together. So even though the run game has clearly some growing up still yet to do for Oklahoma, I think overall I'm sort of just thinking A for OU offensively.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I mean, if the run game was a little bit better, you could probably say an A plus. But you look at it, and they're number 4 in the nation in points per game. The only teams that are ahead of them are Oregon, USC, LSU. Only 4 teams are averaging more than 45 points per game, and Oklahoma's one of them. They're number 6 in total yards at 506 yards per game. Only again Oregon, LSU, Washington, UCF, and Georgia are ahead of them in yards per game. So, I mean, there's not much to complain about with the offense, except just the running game has not been as good as we expect at the University of Oklahoma. They can make it better. It can get better. There's several things that are happening that are transpiring. Caden Green stepping into the starting lineup. Perhaps that helps you be a better run team. Maybe Caleb Schaefer getting in there and getting some snaps. Maybe that makes you a better run team. We'll see. I mean, they had the bye week to figure some things out, and hopefully they got some things figured out on that front. Do we want to go to comments and questions, Josh? You got one more thing on this?
We should, yes. I was just going to say my poor dad joke for tonight. Grades aren't adding up. Locked On Sooners on the back. Print the T-shirts. That's me. It's like none of my grades really make sense how you get to an A+ or an A, but just trust me, people.
No, it's cool. It's cool, man. I mean, to me, okay, so I come from the perspective that football is a team sport. As much as we want to give all the quarterback the credit and all the blame, or we want to talk about individual performances, it all comes down to team play. There's no greater team sport than the sport of football. And so, yes, there are areas that have to get better, but it's not unreasonable to say that a top 4 scoring offense deserves an A and a top 6 scoring defense deserves an A+. It is not unreasonable because they're playing great as a team. And I think overall, that's why you're 6-0 and have all of the opportunities in front of you to achieve everything you want to achieve. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I think it adds up. The math is mathing in my mind, at least.
Well, let's talk to the people, shall we? 405 boy starts us off. John or Josh, should we give Caleb Hicks a shot to see if he's more explosive?
I'm about it. I mean, give anybody and everybody a shot, whether it's him. I think there was another comment a little bit later about Dalen Smothers. Dalen Smothers. I'm up for giving both those guys a shot because when they've had an opportunity, they've looked good with it. So much seems to be depending on what they do in practice, and we can't see what they're doing in practice. So it's hard to know or what they're like in the film in the meeting room. But man, I'd love to see him get a shot because Caleb Hicks is just a really, really good football player, and Dalen Smothers is an electric football player. So why not, man? Throw a little bit of burst and throw just good football players out on the field if you can.
Not really necessarily a question, but I like it from Dwezzy 5000 or D Weezy. I'm probably butchering my friend here. Danny's going to put Plumlee in the dirt. He's more of a comment, and I love it.
Yeah, he's going to plant a Plumlee.
I like it. And again, from 405 boy, I think this is sort of what we were talking about at the beginning is a la Jalen Hurts 2019, right? Show me that you're going to go be businesslike here and just go put the smash down on UCF in this game. You're better than them. You ought to be able to go do that.
Yeah, it's going to take it one game at a time. We're going to keep the main thing. UCF's next. That's what we got to do. We got a lot of ways to improve.
What do you think about this? Speaking of projections from Sooner Cowboys, On 3 has Oklahoma, Georgia in the Sugar Bowl college football playoff game.
I love it, man. Bring it. Let's bring on the Bulldogs. Not afraid of anybody. Not going to back down from any challenge or any fight. I don't care if they're the 2-time defending national title. That's where you want to be. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Agreed. And I think I'm Der Batman, right? Was our Sooner follow out there that tweeted, this is ridiculous. Why can't we ever draw a Penn State or a Washington? Why do we always have to get a Georgia in these games? And, the response was, well, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I would also say this, crazily enough. Now, I'm not committed to this take, so bear with me here. Is Georgia the more difficult option than Penn State or Washington? I mean, do we definitively know that?
I don't think we know that at all. I don't think we know. I think this is the wildest season of college football that we've had in some time where I mean, Georgia could be really, really good, but we just don't know how good they are yet. I think Washington's really good. I think Penn State's really good. I think Ohio State's really good. Michigan looks really good. I mean, there's a lot of teams that look really, really good. We'll see. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about Ohio State and Penn State this week. And I want to say Georgia, maybe, do they have Tennessee this week? Or I feel like they've got a big time game this week, and I can't remember who it was, but there's a lot of really intriguing possibilities for the college football playoff. And I know that the networks are just licking their chops with how good these matchups are going to be, man, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully Oklahoma gets to be a part of it.
So let's see here. Georgia, who do they have coming up? They've got a bye week this week, and then they'll play Florida.
Okay, that's what it is.
So their schedule ahead is Florida hosting Missouri, hosting Mississippi, and then they go to Tennessee. So they're about to go through it. They're about to start playing some good football teams, and we'll find out a little bit more about them. I think that they're going to win every single one of those games because I think Georgia is a little bit in play with its food mode this season, as evidenced by the Kentucky route when they said, oh, wait a second. So now it's time to show up and play some football. And then, obviously they showed up and played a little bit of football versus Kentucky. Our running game definitely has to wake up. That's from 405 boy.
It definitely does. You can't go win a Big 12 title or win a national championship by being one-dimensional. Dylan Gabriel's been great. The passing game has been phenomenal, but you need to be able to run the football effectively. Yeah.
How about this? As long as Tawi Walker, this is from Mark, by the way, as long as Tawi Walker stays healthy, we're going to be all right in the running game. Just need a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit more from everybody. I mean, whether it's Walker or Major or the offensive line or Javonte Barnes or Gavin Sawchuk, whoever, the run game just in total needs to be better.
If this is from Hank, if Caden Green is the starter at left guard, there's going to be a push.
I mean, I love it. I love that your true freshman is earning that opportunity and played so well with it against Texas, and then gets the bye week to continue to build upon what a strong performance he had in the Cotton Bowl. So yeah, man, it's fantastic. Like, you love your true freshman going out there and earning those opportunities. And I think he's going to make an impact in the running game.
The one thing we didn't mention about Georgia, this is from Gunny. Bowers is out the next 6 weeks. That's kind of that's noteworthy for them. I still think, again, they're going to win all of those games, but boy, you take him out of the equation for a young quarterback in Beck that, let's just call it what it is, hasn't been, a world beater all season long. That's kind of a little bit scary, I would think, if you're a Dogs fan.
It has to be. I mean, just imagine, Josh, if Travis Kelce was out for the next 6 weeks, how would that KC offense look? So no, you just pray that Taylor Swift doesn't jet set him off to Europe or something for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, which, by the way, those guys were at the football game tonight. What's he doing? You need to get back to practice, Travis Kelce.
That dude is all of a sudden, he's now the Peyton Manning of the NFL in that he's in every single commercial everywhere all the time. He was on SNL again. He did a little cameo on SNL this past Saturday night too. So the dude's just everywhere. He looks like he's having a great time, so more power to him. But that's the kind of loss that Brock Bowers is to Georgia. I mean, he's that big of a difference. There are few tight ends that make an impact as much as any other player on the field. And Brock Bowers is that guy that, he's top 5 or top 6 in the Heisman voting odds right now, or the Heisman odds right now. So, or at least he was. Huge loss.
Yeah, no, he's special, and obviously he'll be a very, very high draft pick in short order. Sean says if Downs plays as intense as he did against Texas, this defense is going to be next level, ladies and gents. Yeah,
you need that energy. You need that dude that's going to say it with his chest, that. And I think this comes from Brent Venables, to be honest. I feel like somebody said it earlier in the chat, and it would be way too many comments up ahead to find, but they talked about how boring and, I don't know, just dull Lincoln Riley is. And, he's got that same kind of monotone, talk every time he meets with the media, and it's never any different. But Brent Venables, man, that energy, that intensity that he comes with, it's rubbing off on everybody from the players to the coaches. Joe C, Joe Harrah's, like everybody's just like, they're saying it with their chest. And Ethan Downs against Texas was saying it with his chest, man. Bring more of that passion and energy, Ethan Downs, every single week.
Well, I guess since you have taken us there, let's just go there. From Team Moses, does anybody think Mr. Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat?
I mean, I think Lincoln put himself on the hot seat just by always opening the door for him to leave in, like just the week earlier or before the Notre Dame loss. There was that big op-ed about how he was always kind of looking for life after football. Like, bro, like that's an off-season article. That's an off-season interview you give. You don't give that when you're about to go on the road to South Bend to play one of your longtime rivals of the sport. Like, just know the moment that you're talking about. Like, just stop. Just stop talking. Stop doing interviews with the media and just go coach football.
Are we convinced? I mean, I don't follow everything that Lincoln Riley and USC are doing, heartbeat to heartbeat here. So are we convinced? Like, was that from a press conference? Do we know that?
I mean, I thought it was like an article that somebody wrote.
Well,
it was like an LA Times story.
Here's the reason I ask, because I know that it was, and yet there's these videos that have surfaced at times, like the one interview that was done in the summer. Hey, we taped this 4 months ago. And it's like, okay, well, why is this coming out right now then? Is this another one of those to where it's like, okay, on October 14th, we need you to release this story. It's like the way that he's like planned some of these stories getting released the way they are is so weird too.
It is so weird. And it just kind of like, it almost, and I know the jokes and everybody's kind of drawing the parallel to 2021 when he kind of took a mental health day during the Baylor week. And yeah, it's just odd timing altogether. It would not surprise me if Lincoln Riley decided he was just done with coaching for a time and takes a mental health, break. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the NFL. Now his buyout's going to be huge with USC, but yeah.
On that subject, Sean says Lincoln Riley's looking for the next NFL gig to go to with Caleb Williams. Probably your Cowboys.
Shut your mouth. Shut your stinking mouth right now. Well, one, Caleb Williams isn't going to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's their quarterback, and they're not going to get the number 1 overall pick. So there's that. 2, no, absolutely not. I'll become a Chiefs fan again. 3, I just don't know how big of a market he's going to have at the NFL level with the way that the last few years have gone and kind of some of the negative PR that's out there with Lincoln Riley. I feel like at this point, it'd have to be a particular particular organization that just believes that he is the Messiah of football. But I just feel like the way the last 3 years have gone, I just don't know that he's got the same shine on him that he once had.
Yeah, you go down to USC and the things are the exact same that people ripped you for at Oklahoma. I agree. The stock is down for Lincoln Riley all of a sudden now. And obviously I'm just messing around. It's not going to be a Cowboys situation for you. You can relax.
You're not the first person to mention that to me, and I don't find it funny at all. I'm just kidding. But no, I just think because here's the other aspect of that. He's had the opportunity to kind of almost have his choice of quarterback at the college level with recruiting and skill players and things like that. That's not the way things work in the NFL. You might get a cornerstone quarterback, or you might end up with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback. Like, you don't get to say who's going to be your quarterback. Like, you don't get to just say, I want Caleb Williams and he gets to come be my quarterback. No, you deal with what you deal with, and we'll find out real quickly if Lincoln Riley's going to be up to that kind of a task. And
oh, by the way, if you do get to say, I want this guy and it doesn't work with that guy, guess what? There's no next guy in the National Football League. It's over. Gunny wants to know about Matt Leinart getting roasted like a mule shoe brisket.
Oh, Matt Leinart. You cannot come after Oklahoma fans. That's the biggest F around and find out chart of all time. Is I think everybody's finding out. Like, if you come at Oklahoma, you better not miss the old Omar Little line from The Wire. You come at the King, you bet not miss. Like, we're all representing the King, Barry Switzer, and he would not shy away from any of this. But no, man, if Matt Leinart is going to talk about how Oklahoma is getting karma because of the way fans responded to the whole coaching transition and all that. Well, then guess what? We're getting some karma now too, because you wanted to rail. Lincoln Riley wanted to dig at Oklahoma at every turn possible. And the national media, Colin Cowherd and many others, wanted to talk about how Oklahoma was the next Nebraska. Well, USC is going to have to worry about being the next Nebraska when it no longer has Superman Caleb Williams being their quarterback.
Obviously, the recruiting of the state of California helps a little bit there, or theoretically should. But yeah, I mean, Oklahoma doesn't have to worry about being the next Nebraska. And that was always silly to begin with. We debunked that thing time and time again. At every turn, we debunked how silly that was. To even suggest that was ridiculous. Dominic wants us to pick some playoff teams. Are you prepared? I've got 4 in mind.
Okay, I'll go with this. I'm going to say in no particular order, because man, there's no way to know how the committee would pick the 4. But I'm going to go with a bit of a surprise here, and I'll go with Bama from the SEC. I'll go with Washington from the Pac-12. Give me I feel like give me Florida State. And then I'm just afraid that, and I want Oklahoma to make the playoff. If they can beat Texas and go undefeated, they'll make the playoff. I'm just not sure that they will at this point. But I do, man, that 4th one is the toughest one, because the Big Ten are Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are going to beat up on each other and eliminate them all from the college football playoff. If there's a 1-loss Texas and a 1-loss Oklahoma team, do either of them make it into the playoff? I have no idea, but you know what? Screw it. Let's go. Oklahoma is my 4th team. So Alabama, Washington. We'll give Washington the 1. I'll give Florida State the 2, Alabama the 3, and Oklahoma the 4.
Georgia will be coming in with a long unbeaten streak into the college football playoff. They're back to defend the title. They'll be a part of it. And I do like Florida State out of the ACC to take care of its business and get through there. I think they survived the scare versus Clemson and found its way through, though North Carolina, we'll see, right?
That's going to be a fun one right there.
Could be, but I still favor Florida State to run the gauntlet and get it done versus those guys. Big Ten, I think Penn State. I think Penn State is the best of the 3. I think they're going to show that coming up this week in Columbus versus Ohio State. And then I think Oklahoma is going to the college football playoff. Nobody out west.
Yeah. If Penn State makes the playoff, can we get them to do a whiteout? Or nobody does a color out better than the Nittany Lions do a whiteout. It's so much fun. And I'm just kind of a sucker for navy and white altogether. If I had to pick a uniform color combination past the crimson and cream, that might be my favorite one is the Nittany Lions one. But yeah, I don't know. There's some affinity that I have for Penn State a little bit that, yeah, go win it, man. Go win that Big Ten and put Michigan and Ohio State down. That'd be kind of fun.
Well, really, obviously, much easier said than done. Right. Just got to beat Ohio State and Michigan.
No problem.
Because whoever you see, which looks like Iowa right now in the Big Ten championship game, oh, man, do you like a layup in the conference title game? Come on down.
Yeah. How great would it be to get a preseason game where you can play your true freshman or whatever in a Big Ten championship game?
Well, it will be the Hawkeyes out for blood in that Big Ten championship game after getting absolutely housed in an aforementioned whiteout. It's fun to think about, though. I mean, obviously, our opinions could, pretty dramatically change. And Ohio State is they're the proven one, right? Them and Michigan out of the Big Ten. Penn State, they got to prove that they can go win that game over Ohio State. But one of those 3, to me, I think is definitely in. Out of the Big Ten, whoever wins the East, and then they're going to win the Big Ten championship. They're getting in. I worry a little bit out west that they're going to beat each other up and kind of cannibalize themselves like we've seen in years past. Though I think it'd be fun if you got a Washington or an Oregon in the playoff. But there's a lot of possibilities right now, man. It's fun to think about.
Yeah, and this is right here is why I've been so in favor of a 12-team playoff. Because, man, just think of the potential matchups that we could see this year if there was a 12-team playoff. yes, you could see, the Pac-12 cannibalize themselves a little bit, but you might still get a couple teams from the Pac-12, a couple from the Big Ten, a couple from the SEC, maybe both a 1 and a 1-loss Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, that I would love to see this playoff happen next year, like all these teams be as good as they are, but it's going to be a totally different year next year because Michael Penix is gone, Bo Nix is gone, Caleb Williams is gone, Dylan Gabriel is gone, Quinn Ewers is gone, probably Drew Aller from Penn State is gone, JJ McCarthy's gone. There's going to be so much quarterback turnover this next year that next year is going to be even crazier.
Say it with me now in the voice. Brent, the championship trophy's yours. Saban's going to choke.
That's right. That's right. You can do it.
Happy Gilmore right there for you, ladies and gents. Do we touch on the Xavier Worthy comments, or do we just say, hey, that will be in the next edition of Locked On Sooners for everybody out there?
I'm sorry, I got distracted by a comment in the chat. What'd you say?
That's totally reasonable, and I completely understand. I said we just want to save maybe Xavier Worthy for our next edition of Locked On Sooners. Let's end with this. Just a couple of feel-good comments from the chat. Richard, Stutzman reminds of Rocky Kalmus, or could I say my man, Mr. Teddy Lehman as well? Both of those guys.
He's balling, man. And what's so fun is he's turned from the guy that everybody just thought was kind of a goof off and kind of the class clown into like a legit leader of this team. And that's super fun to watch.
And back to Richard here, improve every week. OU will be in the playoffs. We will be in the playoffs. Ding, ding, ding. Keep getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not seeing the best Oklahoma team yet.
And in closing, from Jeffrey, this is a special team. You have to be encouraged by their maturity. You can really see it in the interviews. They're all sending one message, one game at a time.
That's all you can do. Just take care of what's in front of you and then worry about the next thing. So fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of our weekly live show here on Locked On Sooners. It is so much fun to do this with y'all. I get a ton of energy from y'all in the chat. I hope you know that. Like, it's so much fun to do this with you all every Monday night. It's such a blast. Thank you so much for being a part of it and subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. And yes, Dominic, let's go behead the Knights. Or destroy the Knights. Maybe I took it a little too far. I don't know. Sorry.
In medieval terms, that was totally acceptable.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm about 500 years too late. But follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef. Follow myself at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners and Locked On Sooners podcast on Facebook. But until next time, he's Josh. I'm John. Boomer Sooner.